What's up, everybody? This is CJ Maurer here, back with another episode of The Fling, the podcast without a structure, purpose, or strategy, but we're certainly having fun in the process. I am super excited to be joined by my friend and work colleague, Lauren Molenda. Lauren is the one of the owner partners at Riveter Design, a really cool boutique design and marketing firm here in Buffalo, New York. Actually, more specifically, Orchard Park. You're in that office. I don't know how much time you spent in that beautiful office this year, but we'll get to that in a second. But Lauren, if for any of you who've been following along, Lauren's been brought up in a couple of other episodes because she's a super connector and knows a ton of people. A lot of the introductions in the business community in and around Buffalo, New York flow through Lauren for whatever reason. Be interested to find out why. She's also a pretty sweet person and somebody I'm proud to call my friend, which, I do want to acknowledge, like, I invited you to this, a while ago, and I think you had a little bit of hesitancy. So I don't know what changed, but I'm excited to unpack that as well. First of all, Lauren, thanks for coming. What's up?
Thanks for having me, CJ. Thanks for sticking with me when I turned you down the first time. It's a New Year's resolution, get more comfortable on video. I've spent a lot of years on the other side of the camera, am super comfortable there. Love it. Don't need my face or my words front and center. Prefer to let our clients' brands speak before our own. But I feel like,
Which is true for like a lot of people in our industry, by the way.
yeah, and it's worked so far, right? But 2020 was like, nope, you need to be more, visible. And that's what everyone's doing now. So I gave up trying to fight it. And there's been a number of video strategies that like we're implementing for our clients, and I have to get better at it. So this is me exercising my New Year's resolution, forcing myself in front of the camera. No one I would rather do it with than you, because I know it'll be really comfortable, but just bear with me.
Cool. No, you're doing fine so far. I'm absolutely glad to be like, helping you out with your New Year's resolutions. I don't know how many times I've been able to say that about somebody I know. But what you talk about is kind of interesting. Like everybody's doing it. I don't want to fight it. I kind of have to do this. I think there's definitely some truth to that. But like I'm just enough, like I'm not a rule follower by nature, even though I'm comfortable with following plenty of rules. I by nature, I'm a little bit of a rebel. I used to get in trouble at school all the time, like when I was in like elementary school and middle school. And I think part of that is kind of carried through now, where like I don't want to do something just because everybody else is doing something. But this is one example where I am absolutely doing the thing that everybody else is doing. I think in this particular case, maybe because I wanted to do it, and then when everybody just became resigned to working out of their homes and interacting remotely, I kind of saw the opportunity. But part of me wonders if there's something to be said for people or businesses or whatever just choosing not to do this, and if they could find a way to stand out as a result. What do you think?
Um, I'm sure that you could, right? We have a lot of clients who, it's funny, I recently feel like I'm getting old, so everything I say is going to say like, I've recently come to the, decision that, so I've said that a lot lately because I'm just tired of fighting things. But we've recently started like to propose strategies for clients. And normally if I think, even if I think video is perfect for somebody, or I think, writing a blog post every single day is perfect for somebody, if I can get the impression from them that they're not at all on board with that, like if it's not their thing, I'm never going to be able to sell that. I just like don't even pitch it anymore.
Right.
Because I think you have to match the execution with what the person is comfortable with, right? Even if it is going to get them like the most leads ever, if they're not into it, they're not into it, and we have to find a different way.
Yeah,
I
and if
don't, I don't think,
inherently they're not going to embrace it, like it might not even be as good as it could be, right?
right. But I am with you on being like not a rule follower. I was the same kid in school. I think that's probably why Riveter exists, is that I found another rule breaker, my partner Jordan, and you know, basically the whole agency is founded on us breaking all of the rules that we learned, in our previous careers. So
Coming up through like more established agencies. which is a fantastic breeding ground,
Absolutely.
right? Like, I mean,
But
just
similar.
there's so much talent that that comes through those agencies or remains at those agencies in Western New York.
Yeah, but I think we probably annoyed them more than the other way around. Just being,
Yeah.
well, what if we did it this way? And can we skip that phase? And like, well, does the brief have to have those 15 questions? Can it have other things? Can it be delivered in this manner? And can we do it
Mm.
here? And I think we were probably exhausting to whoever was in charge of us back then, to the point where, there reached kind of a point in our lives where, Jordan first and then I followed, felt like maybe we could just like try this on our own and see if our crazy ideas held water. And, you know, for almost 9 years they have, so far. So I think it's
That's crazy. Now,
probably going pretty well.
I met Jordan before you, and I remember meeting her at a networking event, and I would say that would have to have been around 2012. So that's incredible. 9 years. That's really cool. Why don't you tell me a little bit about your professional trajectory and how you landed at Riveter, and then we could talk a little bit more about Riveter and what makes you guys unique.
Well, I won't start at the beginning because I think I was actually thinking of this last night while lying in bed because I'm one of those people that like questions all life decisions, right before you're supposed to fall asleep. Um, but I probably have had 30 plus jobs. So we won't start at the beginning because we'd be here all day. But I wanted to be, actually, this is hilarious, given everything that's happening right now. I wanted to be the White House press secretary. I was a poli-sci communications major. I thought that I wanted to write about politics. I'm not a great writer. I can't write anything unbiased. I interviewed at the Buffalo News with Steve Bell. Shout out to Steve Bell for a writing internship. And he took one look at my work and sent me upstairs to marketing. So it was actually just all a mistake. He said, I don't think you're right for the editorial floor. You have a lot of opinions. Please go somewhere else. So I went up to marketing, hung out there for a couple of years, met some really great people, kind of figured out what the agency world was at that point. I thought account executive meant commission-based salesperson. I didn't realize that job title could mean like strategically leading clients in a marketing sense.
Mhm.
So kind of navigated through that for a couple of years, worked in the marketing department at the Buffalo News, moved over to Stand Advertising, which is a little agency that's no longer with us, but that's where I met Jordan. So we've been together for, I don't know, decade and a half maybe now. I joke that she's like the longest relationship of my life, somebody I'm not like blood related to. So we're pretty stuck with each other. She's outlasted, boyfriends, marriages, all of their friendships. So we're a thing. We're good. So we started working together back then. That agency unfortunately closed down. We both found ourselves at Maurer. We spent a couple of great years there. She left Maurer to start Riveter. I went to Crowley Webb for a couple of years. I hung out there. That was a fantastic experience as well. Can't say enough amazing things about the people and the work I got to do there. And then it was just a perfect time for me to join her at Riveter at that point. We reincorporated as partners in 2017, kind of took the agency from being, essentially a freelance, resource, to really like a full-fledged micro agency, which is what we call ourselves, and being able to offer like a full range of services with a much, larger team, and just a little bit more kind of legitimacy than before. So that's where we're at now.
Yeah, I love your model, and to be honest, your model inspired my model, where
Good. We love that.
it's largely based on the realization that like you don't have to have everything like your whole team of people in house. And I know you guys have partners and like normal W-2 employees, but you also work with like a really strong extended team of collaborators. And in my research now, not just like leading up to starting my business, running it, but now like kind of being a little bit more in that bubble and, listening to other podcasts and hearing about what other people are doing, like a lot of like, that's kind of the way now. right? Where people bring in strategic leadership, not just leadership for the company, but people who can lead clients in a strategic way, manage projects, and maybe do some of the things that they do at an incredibly high volume, but then have these really good relationships with super talented people who want to be, their own freelancers and grow the business that way, so that the team can expand and contract as clients' needs demand. And I watched you guys do that really successfully. Not just first, obviously, as your client when I was at Complete Payroll. I don't know if we should catch people up on this, but
Yeah. We worked
yeah. When I
together.
was the director of marketing for Complete Payroll, which is a payroll and HR company, we were a client of Riveter. Riveter did our brand and really led a lot of initiatives on the marketing side. And then when I started my own agency, well, not only they designed the logo for The Gist, my agency, and now we kind of like collaborate. I might bring them in on client projects of mine and vice versa. And so we've worked together in a variety of different capacities. So this is, roundabout way of me saying that, like, watching you guys structure what you call a micro agency, the way you did really inspired me to do it my way. And so I thank you for that.
There's so many, thank you. And I love all those ways that we've worked together. I haven't thought about that in a while. And also just like from a peer mentorship standpoint, I feel like you're one of the people I call when I'm like, I don't know how to do this. I need a second opinion. Give me a take on this. How would you handle this? I think
Yeah.
entrepreneurship can be lonely, and feel like you're, rowing without a paddle sometimes. And it's just nice to have like a bench of people who are kind of in the same situation to be able to ring up and just like talk things through. You miss that, I think, when you're not working in like a big office environment where there's people all over the place and there's like a manager to like tell me what I'm supposed to do next. So,
Yeah.
but to your point about like the model, those are the benefits, like the scalability, all of that. I just think that our industry is super unique in terms of like a freelancer and like where that falls in the sort of like continuum of career life cycle. The neat thing for us is that by employing freelancers, full-time freelancers, you leveraging their services, we have gotten access to like what I believe is expert level talent. Because typically, if you're great at what you do, good enough to go off and freelance and make a living at it, like you've been at an agency for a long time, maybe you want a little bit more autonomy in terms of your hours or what types of clients you take on or whatever the case is, right? But these are not typically entry level, right out of school folks. There's a lot of talent in that pool too. I'm not discounting that, but like, I think when people hear like you only work with freelancers in our industry versus other industries, like it almost comes with this inherent benefit of like knowing that these are like legit creative resources, because they've put their time in, they're now on their own, they're able to be a little more picky and choosy, have a little bit more autonomy. And we hope that they, choose to work with us and our clients, because we sort of respect their position in the industry, and we sort of respect the reasons why they chose to go that route.
Yeah.
So it's neat because our clients benefit from, these folks who might, at certain agencies, not all, but at certain agencies might be very expensive. People like that come with a really high price tag,
Yeah.
an hourly rate. And through us, and with our model, we're able to streamline that a lot. So you're getting, not the price is everything, but you're getting a really solid cost, and you're getting it, you're getting expert talent for that cost. So I think that kind of like value prop is twofold. And then I also just think for freelancers, Meredith and I, us, we take off the, all the stuff that they don't maybe love, the estimating and the invoicing and the scoping and the admin and the billing and the reconciling of hours and like,
Which, by the way, wouldn't it be great to have, a freelancer for that?
if you can find that person, I would love to interview that person. So I think that's kind of cool too, is that, we're able to say like, listen, come work on this client project. Like we're going to make it basically really easy for you to just like do the thing that you're good at, and you don't have to worry about all the bull.
Yeah. Yeah. That's fantastic. I mean, look, I've talked about this a lot. Like, the barriers to entry just keep getting lower and lower, right? Just look at what we're doing, right? Like, how many years ago, in order to create a video platform and share it with people indiscriminately, like you would have to have gotten like picked by a TV network. And just think about all the people, the production assistants and everything, marketing, legal, that you would just need all those hoops you need to go through to get on it. It was very prohibitive. But now anybody with, a Zoom account and an ego can have a podcast, right? So like the same thing is true for business, right? Like if you're a copywriter and you work at an agency, you do that long enough, and not only other contacts within your agency, but clients and other people, you're just going to have that reputation, and you know that there's enough people who are going to want to give you work. So you create a simple website, some business cards, and invoicing software, something to track your time, and you're good to go, right? Like you don't need to have an office or any of those things. And not to discount any of that, I want a physical office one day. I'm 13 months into this business. It's going well. Hopefully, someday I will have an office for myself and other people. But like the point is, you don't need that. And so if that's the case, right, if the barriers to entry keep getting lower, for those people that want that freedom and that autonomy, they're just going to keep going in that direction, which means a larger percentage of the top talent, right, is going to be available only through freelance and independent contract work. So either as a business, you're going to ready yourself to work with those people or not.
And kind of on their terms, right? Like their terms matter almost for the first time.
Yeah.
So you have to be prepared to, whether that's financial or work-life balance or, available, like hours availability. So, you need to be able to respect like everybody's sort of situation and how they want to live their life. And I think that we've been really good at that. Like, we're just inherently kind of flexible, family first people. I mean, when you're owned by, two moms with little kids, I think we get it. So, that's easy for us, but I think you're right. That's going to be a big shift. There's talking about like, do you need an office space? Do you need this? Do you need that? You really don't need any of that. There's Mike Gluck, who I'm assuming also comes up in your podcast all the time.
I've actually never met Mike Gluck.
Oh my God. That's
I
like,
know, but other people have mentioned him to me. I know he's a copywriter.
Yeah. He's a copywriter, and he wrote a book called
about data. Something about data, right?
Yeah, but he wrote a book called 50 Freelancing Secrets. Oh my God, I like proofread it. I have to, Mike, don't kill me. And it's all about basically like what you need to freelance versus like what you think you need to freelance. And it's basically like get a laptop, a decent pair of headphones, call it a day.
Yeah, right. Like it's
right
that.
now, I recommend it to anybody who I get a DM or a phone call a week, if not more, from somebody who's, I think I might make the leap. I think I might freelance. And I'm always like, read the book and then we'll go for coffee.
That's cool. I'll have to check that out.
So good. It's like, it's quick read.
Cool. I like it. Yeah. And on top of that too, it gives like from an overhead perspective of running an agency, right? Like if you have a full-time employee, like, every kind of client needs to contribute to that overhead of that person's salary. Whereas, from a freelance perspective, you just have so much more flexibility too, right?
Yeah. And then, not to, like, I guess the elephant in that room is 2020, right? And like, I'm a planner, like a downfield blocker all day long. I just nobody did, right? So I don't know, I'm still beating myself over this, but I just did not see that coming. And I kind of thought we had, our model was scalable. We had like prepared for everything. Like our client base was really diversified, like all of the things, and then like, boom, it was like a right hook. And so we weathered it better than most, I think, because of our model, and not that we tried to keep as many people busy as we possibly could, and we took on all sorts of things, and we were super creative. But like, I think 2020 really proved that the model carries water, because had I had 10 full-time employees or something, like it would have been catastrophic. And I feel for, businesses that are structured a different way and had to deal with all that. But we were really able to like weather that pretty well, just because of how we were structured.
What's the biggest challenge you experienced over the last year that you wouldn't mind sharing?
Oh man, so many. My personal biggest challenge, like professionally over the past year, has been like my actual lack of real experience running a business. And I'm super transparent about that. I am a solid strategist, with some really good agency experience on some really good clients, and an extremely reluctant entrepreneur. And for 5 years, I've really faked it pretty well, in terms of, I manage our books and our invoicing, and just generally, like, one of my roles and responsibilities here at Riveter is to like manage our business. Some of that is laughable. Like, I should not be doing anything that involves money or numbers. I don't think I've ever passed a math class in my life. But I've like gotten through it, right? And then over the past year, like, it just was not fakeable anymore. Like, I needed accounting help. I needed someone to help me with the PPP. I needed like guidance. I needed to make sure I wasn't messing anything up from a tax perspective. Like, I just really, for the first time, felt like, from a business management standpoint, like, you have to acknowledge that this is not what you're good at, and either like get some training, like go back to accounting 101, or like go back to school or whatever. And, I consider going back for my MBA, like all sorts of things. Or just like bring in some outside help for these things that I've always like held so tightly to, because, I didn't think that we needed, those kind of freelance resources. So I stand corrected. We do. And now I have a pretty solid team of, we have a CPA and a different, just people that help, make sure that I don't mess things up for us.
I love that. That is
While they're
such a good answer.
doing their job. So that's been like my big sort of challenge this year.
That Lauren, that is such a good answer. Probably in large part because I can really relate to that. I've whether people on the phone or messaging me on LinkedIn or something, they might say like, as a successful entrepreneur, you blah 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 blah, and maybe they're just trying to be like polite
Yeah,
because
like, who are you talking
I
to?
might
Like,
say the same thing too. But I'm like, yeah, like I want to correct people about it now because like I kind of want to share this experience with as many people. That's part of the reason. One of the things I'm doing with this podcast is just doing it and then documenting my experience and sharing it. Like you might get some of my emails. So I kind of do the same thing with this. And like, no, I'm good at strategy, specifically content and inbound strategy. Like that's why I'm here. And there is nothing that says whether I am good or not at running a business. We will still find out, right? In fact, I don't think I'm inherently that's not where my inherent strengths lie. And the sooner I can, build out the business a little bit more and hand some things off to more capable hands, I'm convinced the better off I'm going to be. In fact, I don't know if I told you this, but as of last week, I brought on a project manager. This was somebody that I talked to you about. Well, I talked to you about like creating the role. I'm not sure if I talked about this specific person. So you probably remember talking to me about that. But so I brought on this woman named Kelly, and one of the things that I told her was, first of all, I've always struggled to let go, not because I don't have faith in other people, but it's just so habitual that like it almost feels like I'm cheating but like I am running out of time during a day, during a week. And so already in like 2 days, Lauren, my life is significantly better and easier. And her hands are way more capable to do all of this stuff than mine. And one of the things that I told her was like, I need not only somebody to take things off my plate, right? So I can focus more on strategy. She can make sure everything gets done on time, but also need somebody to like design an organizational structure for the business
and
and a
add,
whole system. And I told her, I was like, Kelly, like I want you to create this and like you be my boss and tell me what I need to do to fit in the system. Cause like I don't want to be the cog, right? You know what I mean? I want to be like somebody who plays a role in a team. And so like I think it took me a while to figure that out and put it into words, but like that's kind of what I need. And I like sharing that like you, because like I don't like I think maybe somebody who is like a similar person who's emailing you like, hey, I'm thinking of taking the jump, might be thinking that they have to do that all themselves. And of course there's a lot of that when getting started, but man, like there's way too much opportunity in bringing on other people who are better at certain things.
on like getting out of your own way to let that happen, because I think there's a difference between like realizing that that would be beneficial, which like I do all day, believe that to be true and then like doing it, right? So there's so much of my like whatever stress I have or is self-inflicted. Like
Oh my
oh,
God.
like I have no ground to stand on in terms of um like a work-life balance complaint or something like that, because it's 100% self-inflicted. And I know that there's so many talented, willing people around me to like that are like would do things better than I do, but I think they're that sort of letting go piece. Or for me sometimes it's just a matter, I'm not a great maybe manager, delegator. People who worked with me at Crowley and EMA that are if they're watching this are like, no, you're a terrible manager. I know that. But I think sometimes like how I need it to happen in my head, and how I see it like playing out, it's just really difficult for me to like communicate that.
Yeah.
So it's
Well,
just
it's tricky because the strength is the weakness, right? Like
yeah.
you're type A, you like to be in control, and you wouldn't be the strategist and project manager that you are if not for that, right? Like I've been one of the people that's like of the team that you wrangled together to produce a project, and like there's few people that could do it the way you can, but you know what I mean? It's true. Like I don't know many people who do what you do the way you do it. It's also possible that that being part of your DNA makes you weak in other areas. Like,
I feel like like I feel like this is a therapy session. What other vulnerabilities of mine can we talk about?
well, I mean, I hope you
Good.
recognize. I hope you didn't focus on the vulnerability and instead focused on the compliment.
Thank
But
you. I
uh,
know I do. I appreciate that. And well, like I've always said to you, every time I like ping you about something, I'm like, oh, it's so nice to just like talk to somebody who gets it and thinks the same way I do. So I know we're totally cut from the same cloth.
right,
And
right.
I agree. I think there is positives to that, but something I definitely am going to be working on getting better at in 2021, aside from being on video and more comfortably, is just trying to like loosen the reins a little, and really let people shine through on their own without maybe me being quite so like
I want your take on something. Are you familiar with Tim Ferriss and the 4 Hour Work Week?
yeah.
That whole book where he's like, all right, you can work 4 hours a week and make a lot of money and travel the world and whatever. Just find a scalable business, hire, Filipino virtual assistants and whatever. Like, I'm super oversimplifying it, right? But just before I started my business, I listened to that book, and I was probably like the last person to do so because, that book came out in like 2007. And I've met some people who are kind of like Tim Ferriss disciples along the way, and I've always kind of had in the back of my head like I should hear what he has to say because like the way he approaches something is not consistent with how I would do it, and so I gained actually surprisingly a lot more inspiration from that than I thought I would have. Because at the end of the day, right, like we're moms, we're dads, we're friends, we're spouses, right, all of that, like that stuff is really important. So like I accept his argument that like you shouldn't live to work, right? But I will admit that like a lot of his practices I haven't really adopted, and sometimes like when I think about it, and not that necessarily I'm trying to, I'm curious to hear your take on that model, right? And is that because the flip side of it is like, well, don't you like, do you want to just like create something that just can like the fact that a business can make money, is that your end goal, or do you want to do something different and meaningful and impactful and something that may carry a legacy? That's kind of where like my like internal debate around that way of thinking works. I'm curious to hear your take on it, one way or the other.
It's going to be pretty not severe, but I'm the first person to explain to anybody why that new idea won't work in marketing and advertising. Like, oh, I would love to not bill hourly, but here's why. Whatever. There are some things about me, I think, that just like how we came up and the practices we learned that have me a little bit stuck in my ways, and I'm working on breaking those patterns. But I will say I have an extremely hard time commoditizing what we do. Like, and I think that's because I've never looked at us as you know is anything other than a group of people who are who love what they do, who like working together, who like the opportunity to work with people that they want to work with. Both like clients and colleagues.
Mhm.
And that's really all we are. I believe that, like, for example, Riveter is who we are because I believe that no one is a better designer than Jordan. I believe that Chris is one of the best writers that I've ever worked with in my life. And I don't think anybody could do what he does. I feel the same way about what Meredith brings to the table in terms of just her personality and her demeanor and the way that she manages our clients from a project management perspective. So, when I think about why we're successful and like how we can scale, I just have a really hard time separating it from like these people. Like I work with these people. I don't just like run this agency because and if they leave tomorrow, we'll find some more people and whatever. And I think to implement that kind of strategy and to like commoditize it, you have to have that mindset. We're going to take on more work. We're going to hire people. We're going to delegate the work down. We're going to take on more work. We're going to hire people. We're going to delegate the work down, and it sort of takes away from the magic I feel like that we experience when we come together. And like, that's why I do what I do. Like I do what I do so that I can work with these people. And I think that will keep me maybe from being a millionaire, and that's fine, but it will probably also just make us pretty happy.
Yeah.
That's probably why I don't know that Riveter will ever be a 4-hour work week company, but to anybody who kind of has the stomach to climb that mountain, more power to them. I'm not hating on it. I just don't.
Yeah, I asked that question because I had a feeling that you might either be like, yeah, that's kind of cool, or that's the dumbest idea I've ever heard in the
Not
world.
the dumbest
It
idea.
sound like you did. You sound like it was a very diplomatic answer. It was a good answer. It was a really good answer. But I'm clear where you stand. So you answered my question.
Good, thanks. Um, but yeah.
One of my issues is like when it comes to things like that, I often don't arrive at decisions because I keep trying to play devil's advocate, right? Like I have some friends that probably think that, that's completely bullshit. And I have other friends that are like, well, why wouldn't you do it? You know what I mean? Not just about this being myopic, talking about this particular example, but applied to a whole bunch of ideas, right? And so sometimes I never really know where I stand because it's like a moving target, and I feel like, well, if I make a decision, am I being too closed off to how it could work this way? So that's one thing that I need to work on is like, kind of committing a little bit further to, basically the type of business I'm trying to build.
And that's exactly what I was just thinking. You were saying that it's all about like where you see yourself, right? Like if you are out for world domination, then like the fastest way from point A to point B is a great strategy. And I think if you're like us, that's a little bit, more like slow, steady, focusing on some different things.
I'm not out for world domination. That sounds exhausting and
It does sound tiring, doesn't it?
borderline and like unhealthy. However, like what I'm not in is just like working more and more and more,
Right.
and that like I want to spend time with my family. I want to exercise. I want to pursue my hobbies. I want to, cook. I love cooking. I love playing golf. I love working out. I love spending time with my family. That's pretty much it. And watching sports.
It's funny because outside of spending time with family, you and I, like as a good friends as we are, clearly have nothing else in common. I don't want to do any of those things.
That's so funny.
We'll have to find like other ways to hang out because it's
Yeah, I
not.
mean, I like meeting people for coffees and lunches and dinners and stuff like that. So that's I'm sure we can find some common ground there.
Yeah, I have. Actually, it's been weird. You joked at the beginning of the call about like being a super connector. Um, it's been a weird shift to like move those coffee house conversations this year to like
Right.
just sort of hopping on Zoom with a stranger for a half hour.
Yeah, talk about that a little bit more and talk about also like give people some advice about like why networking is so important and how you became good at it.
I don't,
I don't have a lot of time left, so I want to make sure that we address that before we.
I know we're butting up against another meeting. I don't know that networking is so important. I know that helping people is important. And I think that if you have some advice that you can give people and somebody reaches out and asks for your help and you have the half hour or the hour to give them, then you should give them that. I think a lot of people did that for me coming up in my career, and it's just my pay it forward thing. I don't do it to like get clients or meet freelancers or build the business. I just do it because if I can help somebody reach the next stage of their career and be a part of their story, like, I think you should. I think everyone should. And I've met some amazing people along the way. So that's really why keep saying yes, even though I'm, there's weeks that I'm extremely over caffeinated. um,
I've had days where I've gone from like, I like come home and I have dinner. I'm like, oh, I went to three different coffee shops today.
I had giant cups of coffee today. Yeah. So yeah, that's that's been a really fulfilling part, of what we do. And so,
Has this year, have you still do like, I love
yeah,
the way you reframed networking as kind of more an act of or a commitment to helping people. Did 2020, this remote year impact that? And if so, how?
a little bit. I haven't seen as many people. I think people have been a little more gun shy. I get a lot of like, I'm thinking of freelancing. Can I talk to you? I'm thinking of leaving my full-time job. That's calmed down this year a lot. I think people are, um, I don't know that this has been the year to make a move for everybody. I think for other people, it's absolutely been the year to make a move, or they had no choice. So, I'll say that I have gotten less, requests for coffee meetings for people looking to jump ship and become a freelancer. But we branded, for the first time for women-owned small businesses, right in the thick of the pandemic and of quarantine. So, so that was super cool, was to see, things emerging sort of from the ashes. And sorry, where were we going with this? So absolutely, like I'm still available and engaged in doing, virtual things. If somebody reached out, I'm on that like open office hours thing for like people in Buffalo, and I occasionally get a hit on that, and I'll meet a stranger. I've met some really great people this year. I've done a lot more networking with like other agency professionals this year, just kind of like, how are you doing this? How are things going? How are you navigating this? And just like seeing what everybody else is doing. We're super collaborative. Like we don't have a competitive bone in our body. So I'll talk to anybody about that sort of thing. But yeah, a little bit less in terms of like, the normal types of conversations, and a little bit more just like, how are you managing this? How are you managing that?
I love it. Actually, just like relating to people.
Yeah.
Cool. Lauren, this is awesome. I really wish that we could hang on for a few more minutes,
I know that's fine.
but I do have to jet before we leave. Where do you want to direct people to? Website, LinkedIn profile. If somebody wants to get in touch with you, what should they do?
If you want to get in touch with me, LinkedIn is great. Lauren Molenda on LinkedIn. I'm super easy to find. If you want to learn more about Riveter, riveterdesign.com is where you can find us.
Awesome. Lauren, thanks so much. I plan to be doing this for a long time, so I don't doubt that I could convince you to come back and do it again someday.
Would be happy to do that. It was
All
pretty
right.
painful.
Awesome. Thanks. See ya.
Bye bye.